Right off the bat, before we even start, that was a cool opening.
Thank you. Welcome to NonPro's review of Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelations.
One revelation.
Part one.
Yeah, part one.
Really, just half a revelation. It's just we're on the dark side right now. Our names are in our lower thirds. If you're listening to the podcast, it's Frank, Ken, Pete, and Al, and we're talking about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Big show. This was interesting. I didn't do a lot of research about this before it came out. I was excited that it happened. Obviously, we've been talking about it on our fan club for quite a while, but I didn't know it was going to be part 1 of 2. Didn't know it was only going to be 5 episodes long. Didn't even really know what He-Man was. What is He-Man? Is it some sort of jam? I don't know.
It's basically Thundercats, but for non-furries.
Oh, I see. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
So we should discuss our basically our street cred when it comes to He-Man, like whether or not we've watched or enjoyed Masters of the Universe toys from a while. We don't have to dwell on this too long. I think we're all longtime fans. Most of us are currently wearing Masters of the Universe apparel and have toys in the background. I love that shirt, Pete. I love that shirt. I love that shirt.
It's a good one. Thank you.
So yeah, and for those who are listening to the podcast, it is Skeletor's face, but He-Man's coif, which, spoiler alert, does not actually happen.
Or is it He-Man's hair with Skeletor's face?
I think that's what I said. Maybe go back to that bit. It's possible.
Go back and we'll check again. Revisit that.
So yeah, I think we're all old time. I was a fan back in the 80s. I think I honestly think I don't know which one came first. I think I may have seen the Filmation short, and that got me into the toys. I think it's the toy I collected the most of, which is interesting because I have not found the box of He-Man toys that I'm almost positive still exists. But like, I loved He-Man. It got me obsessed with like science and fantasy connected together. I was all about He-Man. Ken, what about you?
He-Man toys, I guess, made me appreciate terrible puns.
Oh yeah, yeah, good. It
Triclops
informed
and Stinkor and Fisto and yeah.
Too bad.
Buzz off.
Yeah.
Evil Lynn.
Speaking of terrible puns, Pete.
Yes, I am a terrible pun.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was an original adopter of He-Man. I had that was to me what VCRs were created for. I actually, thanks to my father, God rest his soul, he taped virtually every He-Man episode as it aired.
That's awesome.
And to be honest, I don't think I went back and watched it once.
Yeah. Before we
because I was watching it live on TV.
Yeah.
Well, live as it aired.
They animated it live. It was a great strain on the animator's wrist. Al, how about you? You're young.
My experience actually was with the 2000X series.
I knew it
when that came out. I actually know so little about He-Man other than like it was just part of the cultural zeitgeist. But that 2001, 2002 series, like it was, I don't know, it was very anime inspired, and it hit that right niche for a teenager of that time, or barely teen as it were. So like it was just really cool.
Can I jump in? Because I'm really curious, talking to Al, being the younger of us, and jumping in that late. You know, Frank, Pete, we grew up with the whole thing with the show was a half-hour advertisement to buy toys.
Right.
When the 2000 show came out, it wasn't really a big marketing thing. It was Cartoon Network trying to tell stories. They made toys, but it wasn't the main focal point. So I'm curious, Al, like what really were you impressed with the story of Masters of the Universe?
It hit that like, because this was right as like Dragon Ball Z and all those other like big fighty shows came out, and it sort of slotted itself real easy in with the rest of them, because it was really came down to the action scenes were really, really good. So I don't know, it was Americanized, so it was like the stuff that I remember when I was a kid, but I was a little older, so it felt a little bit more appropriate and kind of safe for me to get into because, like, oh, they actually punch each other now.
Right.
Yeah. So it
was, I could definitely see that being the appeal. And I think that's kind of what the appeal of the Netflix show was hoping for, that there was like this audience that fondly remembers He-Man, but wants something new and more adult in a way and more gory and violent. I think we should address the thing that just came up. Ken said that the old Masters of the Universe cartoons were effectively just toy commercials, and that's a thing you hear a lot of people say about 80s properties and IPs that come back, and this is obviously a big one. This is what we're going to be talking about the entire episode. Yep. I think it's super fair to say that Masters of the Universe was a toy commercial, a half-hour toy commercial. I don't think that's really like a dig. Literally, Mattel was like, we have these, we're going to make these toys. We can do action figures too. And since, these comics aren't really doing it for us, maybe we can make a cartoon show and just give it away and people will watch it.
That was literally what happened. Like, you go and watch the documentary on Netflix that they have. There was literally just a meeting where Toys R Us was like, so you have these comic books in the package, right? Thing is,
no
the
one
age
reads.
range you have here can't read yet. Oh, we didn't tell you that we're gonna do a TV show. Like literally, in that moment, as they were like kind of worried. Like, oh, we didn't say we're gonna do a TV show. We're doing a TV show. Did you know?
But despite that, Masters of the Universe has a long history, and the people who love it deeply. Even if you, again, only love it because of the toys, you really do get attached to those toys, either the mini comics in the back or the little thing explaining the origin of the character. Like, it's not just a toy commercial to the people who love it. We're not going to be dismissive of any of this, and we're not going to be overly attached to it. We're gonna cover this new show and what we think about it. And I guess one more thing to cover before we begin. We're not jerks. We're not jerks. We're kind of jerks, but we're not like boring jerks. I think we're going to go like pretty much a full gamut on this. I think we all have slightly different opinions on the show, but I don't think any of them are going to be informed by rank stupidity. So let's cover it. As far as IP rebooting goes, this was a mixed bag for me. Some of it worked really, really, really well, and some of it just like, it's okay. I'm all right with this. I'm all right with it. What did you think? Who wants to go first? Who wants to talk a little bit? Ken?
Part of my issue, I think, if there's one issue I have with this new one, it's under the guise that we're already expected to know who all of these characters are.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of character development on my end, but if you grew up with it, it was an archetype, so you knew who they were, in a way. You were at least somewhat familiar. I mean, face fact, the show was gauged for people that grew up with the show.
Yeah.
So they had that going into it, so it was kind of a cool thing, but there wasn't a lot of things where we got to experience characters individually, whereas in the old cartoon, I guess because they were selling toys, an episode could just focus on a brand new character that was being introduced because they were selling that toy in the new line. Like, we were introduced to Zodak for an episode, or we were introduced to so-and-so. So we actually got character development being introduced to the origins of these people. We don't have that in this.
Yeah. I mean, you also have the like dozens of episodes a season, right? To do this.
Right.
Say, the old series had the benefit of 50 plus episodes per season.
Right.
So I would say that if there was any character development, if there was an arc, right, it would probably be Teela, and I would even go as far as say it's Teela and Evelyn, right? I think that little, not quite buddy cop, but like duo did work for me, especially Evelyn. Evelyn's arc through this, and there is an arc. I mean, it's quite obviously I'm sorry. Spoilers for the entire 5-episode part 1, because of course there's going to be spoilers for this. But yeah, despite the fact that the end Evelyn ends up in the same place she started, it's clear that there's sort of like there's more going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
she didn't just accept her role as being bad again, but she read the room effectively, and I think ended up back in a similar square one. But she does have a full arc in this, where we follow a lot of what she's going through. Tila, of course, is a major part of the new of this storyline as well. You get to play around with the notion that she wasn't part of the inner circle in the original series, and why that might be. For me, the major problem was almost the opposite of what Ken said. There's so much exposition for things, and it's kind of ham-fisted when it happens. A lot of it is just like people just explaining to the camera what is happening in this world, and some of it works really well. A lot of this is issues with dialogue, and you could put this on the feet of Kevin Smith, but I also don't know, like, the good things could be his fault, and the bad things could be his fault. It's hard to know where the line goes. Some of it is like smooth and interesting, and it really makes you think like, oh, this is a person who's been thinking about Masters of the Universe for a while. And some of it's like, this is just ridiculous. And all of that to me is, it's a question I always ask when we talk about these kinds of IPs. Who is this for? Who is this show for? Right? Ken, you said it. It's not for kids. Little kids aren't going to go into this knowing who any of these characters are, or care that He-Man dies in the first few minutes, which is, I think, blown out of proportion in online.
Really kind of dies, quote unquote. Like it's
he's in every episode, so I don't know how much he dies in the beginning of this. But yeah, the question is, who is this for? Pete, you said it was a good question. What do you think about all that?
That's my question. I don't have an answer for that. Because it's not for the new fans, because there's really not much of an in point for them. You have to know He-Man before you start watching this. At some incarnation of He-Man, at least.
Right.
I don't think they even explain the fact that Adam is his secret identity until he makes the transformation.
Yeah, it's not one of the big pieces of exposition, which honestly I liked, but it's hard to watch this as a person who isn't familiar with who He-Man is. So maybe I would have been lost if I was just a kid trying to watch this for the first time.
It's also not for the hardcore fan who really wanted a He-Man show. I mean, you hear lots of people online complaining about that they didn't get the He-Man show they thought they were promised.
Right.
And I know we don't want to delve too deep into that, but that's out there. You can find it if you want.
Yeah. And
it should be hard.
I think that's the one part I'm iffy on, right? Because it really, like, I'll be honest, the first half of part 1 of 2 did kind of feel that way to me, when I was like, oh, this is not bad, but it's like, oh, this isn't really anything that and I can't even think of particular moments that did it. It was just a little bit slower but as we got to see more and more of Eternia post He-Man in these 5 episodes, I did kind of feel like, all right, I guess I flipped the switch in my head and I was like, oh, this is the Master of the Universe I'm going to get. I'm going to get what happens when Triclops becomes a religious zealot. What happens when, et cetera, et cetera. It was okay. I had to change my expectations, and I would consider myself a hardcore fan. But yeah, it is iffy whether or not it really does the job. Ken,
I'll give you one. I'll bring one thing up. I think it was part of the audience was guys like me who grew up playing with the toys and loving with the cartoons, who created their own episodes in their head playing with the cartoon, playing with the toys. Because one of the things I used to do was, what would happen if Skeletor actually got the Sword of Power, which never happened in the cartoons. And that was a thing that I always did in my head playing with these toys. So I'm like, maybe this show is for me.
That's fair. Al?
I think Ken's kind of right. Like it's in that weird nebulous part where it is meant for some fans, but maybe not others. Like I feel like that's othering, and that's not really what I want to say. But like I feel like I get where Ken's coming from, even though I didn't get exactly that feeling. I do understand it. It's like, you pulled the toys out of the box, and it was an episode where all of the bad guys and all of the good guys were in it, because that never happened. And it did things that were like, you did as a kid, which was like, Skeletor got the power sword. He-Man, we tell a story. We've actually talked this a few times when we reviewed comic books. we're telling a story where He-Man dies. Now that story is not necessarily going to be like final, excuse me. What I meant to say.
Kevin Smith is putting the toys back in the box. He's going to have to. I mean, even if he isn't the type of person who would, and I think he is, I think he's like a savvy creator who knows comics and stuff. Like in the after show, that guy, the president of Mattel, was there. Mattel's not going to be like, yeah, no, we're killing He-Man. We're okay. No, they're going to put the toys back in the box.
Yeah, they're not killing He-Man. They're telling a story where He-Man dies. And I think that's kind of what they wanted to do. Like we talked about with Spider-Man when he went in Superior Spider-Man. We talked about when Human Torch passed away. It's like, it's that kind of a story. We want to do these things where we do things a little bit differently. We're not trying to take too many risks, because I don't think the show does that. I don't think it makes big risks. I think it takes mild things that we did when we were kids. What if Skeletor won that one battle? Oh,
I don't know. I think it takes some big risks as far as these things ever are big. I mean, like, you could be savvy and be like, oh, I know this isn't going to last. But at the same time, like, this is, big choice to kill him in the first episode and to effectively leave him for dead or kill him in the last episode.
Yeah.
It's still hard for me to figure out who exactly. I guess for me, it's like when you ask the question of why you're taking a property and an IP and doing it again, bringing it back. The question is, again, who is this for? So if this was targeting like older adults who have kids who are the age that they would have been when they were kids and watching the show, then, I'm sitting my kids down to watch the new He-Man because I loved He-Man, right? Arguably, that's DuckTales, right? I grew up watching DuckTales. I have a child now who's the age I was when I sit down, watch DuckTales. And as long as it's geared approximately correctly, it works. And the show's good. It lands. This version of He-Man does not feel like it feels like it's still aimed at me and not me and my kids in the room. And that's not just being Puritan and saying it's too violent. It's just there's a mixture of like, who are these people? What are the consequences of He-Man dying? I don't know who He-Man is yet. It's odd. So I think at the end of the day, we have to say it was made for us. Or maybe just some young people who knew He-Man from, like Al said, the zeitgeist. Right, you kind of know about He-Man. You know enough about him. You know what it is? Toy collectors, right? They have the toys. They don't really care. They didn't really watch the show or care much about the comics or the story. They like the toys. They want to see these pun names coming back in and reimagined.
Yeah.
And so, like, did it work? I have like an adage where like nobody wants to read your Alice in Wonderland fan fiction. Is this Kevin Smith's Alice in Wonderland? Tim Burton. Is this Kevin Smith's fan fiction and I think it's definitely his fan fiction that got published for Masters of the Universe, but like, did you enjoy it? Did it bring anything to you as a viewer?
I'm going to argue yes, actually.
Yeah. What was your favorite parts of it?
You know what? The weird direction some of it took. Part of it was, I did like the buddy story of Tila and Evelyn teaming up. And actually, I like the relationship of Beastman and Evelyn.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
That was
it was like the queen and her bodyguard, essentially, or her attack dog, if you want. But there was even the whole Triclops cult thing was just so out there that it was different, and I'm like, I can get behind this. This is different. If Skeletor was gone and all of his henchmen had the free reign to try to take on some sort of mantle as their own to give themselves individuality because they were just these C-list people
Goons.
Flunkies.
Like, seeing these guys try to rise up and do something was better than anything the 80s did in the cartoon.
And Evelyn even says it, like, man, I wasted my life doing this. Like, if I had just realized at any point in time I was worthy of my own, like, self-actualization, like, I could have been the big one. Like, I could have been stronger than he was. And we see the villains try that out. And some of them succeed better than others. Some of them even get the other villains to be their flunkies.
Pete, what about you? What do you think?
I think all of those were very interesting concepts. I loved the idea of Triclops and his cult. I loved the relationship between Beastman and Evelyn. I even liked that bit about Orko. His name came from trying to say Oracle when he was a baby.
Yep.
Oh.
There are tons and tons of really interesting ideas. And I feel like none of them were really explored enough.
Yeah.
You know, it's this.
I'm sorry, I don't mean except for maybe the Triclops episode, but yeah.
Which one was the Triclops episode?
Episode
Ken
2.
has notes. Ken has notes. Which one would you call the Triclops episode? No, I agree with what Pete's saying. Well, Ken looks up his notes.
I thought the second episode was the Tila does the quest for Evelyn.
Yeah, and that's when you find out about Triclops.
I'm saying there was no Triclops episode.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Everything was jammed together, and nothing got attention.
I would agree. I would have liked any of these to be built out more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I needed it. I feel like there was enough like vague, like one of the things that got me into fantasy, and especially this like Masters of the Universe sci-fi fantasy, was like as a kid being way too imaginative, and I guess unable to pick a schedule. Like I couldn't watch. I think I've talked about this on podcasts before. I never like watched part 2 and part 3 of a 3-part show. Like the Captain, the ABC Weekend Special was a nightmare for me because I would only watch 1 or 2 of the parts and never know how the story completed. So I would always like kind of imagine how it would. So I like the vagary. I like being able to try to imagine what is going on in the side. That doesn't mean that it wouldn't be good or even better if they had made it like a 12-part season and gave like a full episode on each of these characters. It might have even quelled some of the whining about why is this focused on Tila, because you'd be focused on several different characters per episode. I don't know if it's necessary for me, but I do appreciate that like it is. These are all these like kind of half-formed thoughts. For where it backfires for me is when half-formed thought and like clunky writing go hand in hand, and you're just like, oh, come on, no. So for me, Orko was ridiculous. Orko was probably one of my favorite, may have been one of my favorite, or only like hero character I really liked because I was a stupid kid. And the whole Oracle thing, I was just like, this is too much. Cringer, do you know who named me? Stephen Root did a great job. All the voice acting was great.
Yeah,
I will give them that. That was actually taken from the Filmation. That Tila actually did name him Cringer.
That's awesome. I didn't manage to bring this up early. Full disclosure, I loved He-Man. I haven't watched it. I don't think I've watched an episode of the Filmation series probably since I was a little kid. None of this is me being like, oh, the original shows were so much better. Obviously, I liked them at the time. I was a kid, and I hope that they stand up for what they were if I watch them now. But it's not like, oh, this isn't canon. You screwed up canon. It's more like, some of this worked and was interesting to me, and some of it wasn't. For me, the thing that worked the most, I think I maybe have skipped you, Al. Did you want to go first?
No, you finish your thought.
Yeah, the thing that worked most for me was Skeletor. I love OG Skeletor. He was my favorite character in my favorite toy, at least. So I mean, he's a skull-headed dude. How can you go wrong? But like the vision of Skeletor, who also dies in the first episode. Like, I don't know why this lead gets buried.
Well, people aren't complaining about that for some reason.
Because
I'll explain that in a second.
He wins. Like, he has this kind of masterful plan that is occasionally clumsily explained. I put my soul in your staff this whole time. I'm like, could have foreshadowed that a little bit harder. But like, it is a very clever, interesting, diabolical plan, and it makes Skeletor seem like a force of evil, like a demon, the way they refer to him in the first episode, and like he is truly like sort of inhuman. You don't understand the scale he's working on to come up with these plans, and that's that was really refreshing and interesting to me. Even the dialogue associated with it, like I've complained about the dialogue here or there, but like you finally use that sword the way it was meant to be was like, oh man, yes. The fact that it was immediately followed up with as the key to the knowledge of power. I was like, all right, it's a little much. That was fine. I liked it, but it's a little on the nose. But okay. Ken, did you? Were you gonna?
Well, I know. Al had something he's been wanting to say.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say, like, there's a lot about this that I kind of half agree on. The stuff with things in the background and stuff, like, I feel like that was done about as well as I wanted it to, because I didn't want us. I liked that there was still a Saturday morning cartoon show feel to the show. It felt like it was just a little more, like, it wasn't adulted. It was just modernized a bit. Stakes were a little bit different than they were.
It was elevated.
Yeah, I didn't want things to be explained and go into detail. I liked the broad strokes and the generalities to it, and I liked the violence wasn't etched up to 11. As I said many times before, I was praying to God this wasn't going to be G.I. Joe Resolute, where like there was blood and gore and like sexual situations. No,
to be fair, this is PG both in what it was ranked and what it feels like. It's not. We keep saying adult, and we're probably overdoing it. It is PG. Yeah,
and I appreciate that because it feels like it's just a PG version of the cartoon, and that's what I wanted out of it. And I liked that it went that way, because Smith could have very clearly made this a very raunchy kind of show, and I'm very glad he didn't. And it's kind of
Smith? No,
no glove, no love. That was it.
But I really feel like that was okay to me. But I feel like the reason you hit this on the head, why it feels weird and why it feels like we should be getting more, is the dialogue is really off with that exposition. There's some times where it's great. Like, all of the flashback scenes are really good. Tila saying, like, listen, He-Man was a teenager and a sheltered one at that, so his humor was a little, like, that was great. I thought there was great. There was a lot of really good dialogue. There was a little bit of over-explaining of things that didn't need to be explained. There were a few things of just, like, it's just a little clunky, and it just kind of falls like a sack of rocks, just really like, oh, God, guys, there should have been another pass of this. And it's not that it's bad or that I wanted more or this or anything. It's just the delivery was just a little off, just a little bit. And I think if it was fixed or gone over another way, it probably would have been fine. No one would have given a crap that we didn't have a Triclops episode or a whatever episode. Everything would have been kind of delivered in a way that we felt was digestible.
Yeah, it seems. Well, at least it seems like that could have helped, but coulda, woulda, we don't know.
Yeah. Are you going to talk about dialogue with like Skeletor saying, "You might say he's a faker"?
No, that was great.
Everyone being named throughout this. I know, like, Pete, is that your favorite part? Or every time someone gets a name drop, I'm like, oh, no, I can't legally complain about this because it is ridiculous from the get-go.
I loved all that for some reason. It was when Skeletor went on that very long tirade about, like, and this is what the ancients did. And then I'm like, buddy, this, like,
so
to sync this a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a lot harder for me to recall bad dialogue than it is the good dialogue. Yeah, because the bad dialogue was just sort of like, huh. And for me, like, I mean, the no glove, no love gag was a little iffy, but then, like, all right, so Man-at-Arms and Tila, their relationship, like, I really like. I know people are saying it's the heart of this arc, but nah. No, there's a couple of moments. There's a couple of moments where I'm like, yeah, I could. It's cute. His devotion to her and his Davrosness is pretty interesting in this. But, like, there's a lot of, like, I will never trust you again for reasons. And then later on, like, all right, I trust you. Please go guard the castle. Oh, he shows up. And then he's gone again. It's like a lot of it is just clunked together in a weird way that doesn't flow. Contrasted with, like, Evelyn, whose arc is beautiful. And it's not just like Lena Headley's performance, which was amazing. But like, she actually, when she's showing compassion to Orko, it kind of makes sense, because it may not even be compassion. It may just be like, I need you to get out of this. So I need you to get out of your head. That's your parents talking, get out of it. She doesn't suddenly switch gears and become a good person. Like, it could still be Evelyn. And that's like a wonderful line when I think Andrea says, I don't know why I thought a person named Evelyn would be nice. It is genuinely funny. It is genuinely funny as a line. And then there are times where it's just sort of like, a second pass feels like it would have fixed a lot of this for me, but I don't know. I don't know.
There was the evil in line where it said, and I was just actually starting to like you guys, which was like the best delivery of the entire series so far.
Yeah, some great vocal performances on this.
At that point, she's like, it's like, what am I going to hang on the loser's side? No, I'm like, it's like,
read the room. I mean, even if she's going to want to help them later on because she wants us, not to deal with Skelegod is what I think they're calling Skeletor now.
I can check the package. What do they call him?
Oh, you
the toy came
out. That's
oh,
what
get
it
out!
Says.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his design on that, but
going back real quick, Frank. There was a moment I didn't catch it the first time, but I watched it again today. Right when the Hall of Wisdom is opening, Evelyn approaches Skeletor, and he actually reaches out and actually touches the ball of her staff.
Oh,
And
he does.
That was the moment that he started transposing his essence.
That's awesome. That's
and
great.
There are some other moments.
The second time this episode I've been made to eat crow. It's delicious.
Crow.
There are actually a few other moments where she's looking in her staff, and like you see the glowing in her eyes. Like, I have to get this. I have to restore the magic. It's there are like, and they're weird, and they don't foreshadow what exactly is going to happen, but it's like something's up, and you're like, and then when Skeletor comes out, it's like, oh my god, that's what it was.
That adds more question for me on whether or not Evelyn has even little like, because all her actions were to restore magic, but if she was under the influence of Skeletor at the time,
under the influence, or was she working with him the entire time?
Ooh, yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Was she really coming around to them, or was it all a facade?
Yes, Facade has got to be a character. He's Fakor's cousin. I'm Facade. Get her done. I don't know why he sounds like that.
I see one of those like Pretenders Transformers, the original one. No. An average shell.
Speaking of Transformers, for a hot second, I want to say this because I as a person who's been enjoying that media for a while, and like they have their own Netflix show that's on their streaming right now, and there's a new one, next season coming out tomorrow. This show is done with so much more love and care than a lot of Transformers shows have been done in the past few years. Certainly more than the Netflix show that's out right now. And it's really surreal to come in here and like watch the show and see so much kind of controversy about it. I'm like, literally, there's so much wrong with the Transformers show. Like they won't hire union actors, and like there's like a production issues with like so much random crap, and it's so weird to sit here and be like, but this show's pretty okay. And again, done with much more love and affection for that franchise than what I've been experiencing.
Al, you just blew my mind. But Pete, say something.
Excuse me, Al. Love and affection. Kevin Smith completely got Robato's origin wrong. Excuse me. I don't understand how you can love He-Man and get Robato's origin that wrong.
Fair enough.
True.
The guy from Styx wasn't available. So, Mr. Roboto, no? All right, good.
Yeah,
so, that deserves the utter silence that fell afterwards.
Domo arigato, Frank.
Yeah.
Domo arigato.
So, speaking of, again, super devoted, love the original series. Probably every episode I'd watch now, I'd immediately remember it as I was watching it, but horrible recall. All I really remember about Teela's origin was that she was a baby in a nest.
And Man-at-Arms found her in the entry, yeah.
Sorceress was the one who laid the egg that was the baby. I know it's a little different than in the comics. I don't really want it to be corrected. I don't care.
I was going to say, there's slightly different origin story in the mini comics. I'm not going to get into that. This is it's surprisingly not G-rated.
The one thing I
found it was very weird.
Yeah.
The one thing I found very off-putting was the moment where it seemed like Duncan was going to completely spill the beans of everything to Teela, which I'm guessing was going to be her origin.
Right.
Yeah. And then Evelyn just putting a kibosh. I was just
we
saying,
don't have time for this. This is only a 5-episode part one.
That
might as well be what she said.
Yeah. I had flashbacks to, now I can't even remember it. What was the last Star Wars movie?
The Rise of Skywalker.
When Finn's like, I gotta tell you something, and never comes back to it.
Yeah. Nope, never did it. Or Palpatine's back for some reason. You don't want to know what I was thinking. This is so stupid. I honestly, Pete, I thought you were going to reference It's Pat. Do you remember there's a scene in It's Pat where such a dumb movie. It doesn't. Somebody walks in front of the subtitles at one point where they reveal.
Oh no!
It doesn't matter. I don't know why I did this. Evil Lynn, yes, definitely interrupted to say, "Hey, that's for part 2." Al, you blew my mind. I think you are absolutely justified and not right. There are issues with this thing, but I feel like it's something that's really good that almost didn't, like, there are things that are just a little bit not good, but compared to like things that make more sense, Transformers, which was an 80s series that has been around throughout. If a new cartoon came out, if Rescue Bots come out, I know who the audience for Rescue Bots is. It's a little kid. It doesn't have to know anything about the original OG Transformers. But you look at Transformers and it's like roll a die, right? Or flip a coin, whether or not the adaptation feels genuine at all or good at all. Whereas this, I mean, pretty damn committed to something. There was a love there for the original property. Ken.
Well, I got a couple things, but it looks like Netflix and Mattel are both doubling down with the Masters thing, because we have this show, but they've also announced that they're doing a second one, which is going to be a family-friendly show called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, that's the reboot series, I think, or that's the kid show, if memory serves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it goes back to who's a show for. They're doubling down. They're doing it, I think, for
everyone.
Yeah, like we're going to have another show just for essentially kids to enjoy.
Yeah, everything is a universe. Everything is IP that can never die, has to be brought back and streaming forever.
I just hope it's not Thundercats Roar again.
I still haven't seen that. I think we saw the first episode together and I liked it, but I almost liked it because it was like, oh, well, this is definitely not Thundercats. So in a way, like, like my issues with this He-Man show was like, oh, not quite the way I imagined it, which is stupid. But like, a Roar version of it, a chibi He-Man would not at all be what I imagined from He-Man. So maybe it would be fun. I think at some point or other, if you make enough of a franchise, you can play around with what that franchise is, right? Spider-Man could be in a serious comic, or he could be Spider-Ham.
See Transformers.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
But and then it could also be hit or miss and flip a coin. Yeah. But I think at that point or other, you just have to that's Marvel, right? That's us as old school Marvel fans going to the movies every time. You're going to either see the version of the character you remember from the last 30, 40 years, or you're going to see a new version and it'll either be good or not good. And you're just going to have to accept it. And in those cases, those movies are like super powerful in the zeitgeist. They will drown out any other version of the character. If you really wanted to see another version of, I was about to say the Mandarin, you're not going to get a chance. Maybe you will.
We are, though. Yeah. We are.
Yeah, which actually is super cool. I mean, Marvel is just doing everything right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, like, it's interesting that we bring up Marvel because, like, as I was saying before, like, we watch a lot of that Marvel stuff. Like when we do rewatch as a franchise, a lot of people who are fans of the Marvel Universe will rewatch the movies they don't even really like. And I think, like I was saying this at some point, and James even brought this up way back when we were doing the Evangelion rewatch, is that franchises hit a point where it doesn't matter if it's good. And I think He-Man and Masters of the Universe hits that a little bit too, where people consume stuff and just go through it, and like they do with Marvel a lot of the times, like they'll just keep going to the next movie over and over, just because they want to consume the next thing in the franchise. And I think the reverse is also true. People will just sometimes avoid or like dislike something as their way of consuming it and their way of sort of going through it. Now, there's no wrong way to consume media, and this isn't me like, you make it someone else's problem, that's a problem. But it's also something to notice is like that's sometimes how people go through stuff. It's sometimes how people interact with the thing that they like, and because it doesn't matter if it's good, they're just how they're going to interact with it.
With things like the MCU and Star Wars, there is allegedly a through line, a story that you have to watch all the way through, right?
Yeah.
So that makes you have to make horrible decisions about what's the viewing order of Star Wars? How can I watch this without watching that horrible movie everybody hates in there? Which is odd, but like I kind of get it. I don't know
Just
what the
don't
future.
watch Solo. What?
I think a lot of people might.
It's weird.
play
I
that
actually
one.
kind of liked that movie
Yeah.
when I saw it.
But like
Yeah.
when you watch like this, I mean, obviously we're really predicting a lot of success from Mattel and Netflix on this if there is going to be anything past part 2.
Yeah.
But like what do you do with a character like this afterwards? It's animated, so I guess you could keep making these stories for forever. I think if you're talking about revisiting IP and still keeping it fresh and then letting it cool down and doing it again, I think you have to be less Star Wars, which is, I think has a maybe 50-50 track record on that. Worth billions, so yeah, keep doing it. But like it's it's iffy. Some people like it, some people don't, and some people are kind of in the middle. I think the real success story is something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they can keep rebuilding this brand every few years and coming out with a new series and
crazy.
Reinventing, actually. Yeah.
and people will be okay through most of it, all the other versions. I'm sure there are people who like one version better than the other or whatever.
Oh,
that's
absolutely. Yeah.
that's
that are
just
vocal
taste
and weird about it. Yeah, whatever. But
that's just taste, and there's always going to be jerks who are overly passionate. But like, wait long enough and you'll get another version that you might like better. I mean, wait long enough, you might get another version of a live action movie you like better. And it's weird. Who knows if they're going to be able to keep this up forever. And I don't know if that's really what He-Man's going to be. But as far as the first attempt, not in 40 years, which is what the marketing made it seem like, but like, what, 10 years, 20 years, halfway.
About 20 years, yeah. About 20 years.
20 years, the first attempt to revisit this IP in a way where it's new content, not just like a Funko Pop. I think it did okay. I think it did pretty okay.
Real quick, I know a lot of fans are having a lot of weird feelings about it, and they're calling themselves fans, saying they might be saying this isn't my He-Man. My question is, how big of a fan are you? Because DC's been running the books for at least the last 8 to 10 years, and if you've read any of those, some of those are just as dark, if not darker, than what we got on this Netflix show. And I mean, I would assume fans are eating up anything Masters of the Universe, and there's nothing spouted out about the comics.
I know why. Kids don't read. I think that's where we came in on, and I think that's true. I think a lot of these people were waiting for a cartoon. They weren't reading the comics back in the 80s, and they weren't reading the comics right now. So when this popped up, it was their first attempt to get it. So all the vitriol came out. Obviously, there are some people who didn't like the comics and have been, I guess, sort of browsing them or reading a little bit. I'm sure, and I really don't want to be the type of person that says, if you don't like the show, you're a bastard, you're a monster, you're a hateful person.
Yeah.
Although certainly some people are.
To complain about. There's definitely things wrong with it.
Yeah. So I guess we could do like roses and thorns on what we liked and what we didn't like on this. Let's start with a round of crap. Let's just things we did not like. Some of the dialogue has been ham-fisted. I will say, oh God, things that I truly didn't. Oh my God, I'm other than the really kind of like clumsy. Not world building, even that was a little bad, but like drama that was just sort of like forced in there. That's pretty much my biggest problem. There's something a little bit like sloppy about it all. Al?
I'm kind of in agreement with you, because I think the worst part of it for me is the beginning of Tila's arc, because I like it through most of the series, except the very beginning. It feels like there's one line of dialogue missing. Like, I was even sitting there and like, she's very concerned about, you lied to me about this thing and now he's dead. And it's like, just say you literally made a teenager fight a war. You made a child go to war for you. And you didn't tell his father about it. Like that line of dialogue is missing. And I'm like sitting here like, why? Like, I guess because it's too real. Like it hits too much close to home, I guess.
Because they were planning on going back to it eventually.
I guess, but it justifies a lot of it, but it feels weird. Like, yeah, they lied to you, and I get why you're upset, but like you're doing a very poor man's job of explaining it. But it's enough to get me on the ride, even though I didn't like it.
Right.
I was just going to say, in their defense, Tila is usually supposed to be depicted about the same age as Adam, if not younger. So I don't know that she would be upset about sending a child to war.
Yeah.
I think they were both of age that they could do battle
She
if
seems
needed.
a lot older in this.
Yeah,
In
she
this,
does.
yeah.
She does in this.
And Adam seems a lot younger in this as well.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that was probably some of my biggest thorns for this, were the marketing that promised us first a continuation, then a spiritual successor to the Filmation series, and they didn't deliver that, and I think they knew they weren't going to deliver on that, because they changed stuff like the age relationship between Adam and Tila, or the age portrayal of Adam.
Yeah, this
like I
definitely
said, Robato's,
was not a continuation. Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Pete. The marketing for these things is always weird. Like
always.
Yeah.
Always. Like this is the Spider-Man. Spider-Man's dead. He'll never come back.
Yeah, it's
always the hyperbole. It's
hard to, and it makes it so hard to enjoy the product for what it is, because you are constantly told, well, it's going to be this thing. Like going back to Transformers, they literally said at one point, like, hey, we're going to create the show. It's the Game of Thrones of Transformers. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Sounds so uninteresting.
What is that?
Sounds so uninteresting. All right.
Wait, who does Peter Dinklage play?
There's a lot of answers I could give, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Pete, any more?
That was about it. What was it? Come back to me.
We're so old. Ken, what are some of your thorns, the things you didn't like?
I don't know if it's that I appreciate it or it bothered me. It's a little bit of both, actually. It's the mixture of the different incarnations and media interpretations that Kevin Smith all mashed into this besides the original cartoon. One being, the reference to Moss Man. He smells like pine.
Oh my God.
Reference. Let the first episode, when the battle between He-Man and Skeletor, let this be our final battle, was the line Skeletor spouted by Frank Langella at the end of the live action movie. And when it's revealed that Adam is wielding the Sword of Power, Skeletor's line is, "That boy is holding the power in his hands," which is the tagline for the toys during the commercials.
Well, don't forget,
he mixed so much into this.
There's a line between homage and tedium. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I liked it or if it was just like, oh no.
I was just going to comment on the first time we meet Adam. He basically goes through the "I have a power" speech piece by piece.
Does he?
Yeah.
The only part I remember standing out was like, I guess I have the power. And I'm like, don't. That's another one of those ham-fisted, that thank you for reminding me of the line. It's like, does anyone have the power to help him pop this bubble? Oh, I guess I. It's just so bad. It doesn't have to be this bad. You obviously get right, because some of it's really good, and then some of it's like, I can't.
I'll be honest, I didn't mind it because some of it just was like one of those things where he said, maybe I had the power, wink, wink. They did a lot of that in the old 80s cartoon.
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
again, none of this is saying that the old 80s cartoon was untouchable, and we're trying to make it back. Like, it could be bad, and also I was like, I'm a little disappointed with this. Plus, I'm just getting off topic. I'm going into my roses, but the old 80s cartoons and the flashback parts where they're clearly more like the old 80s cartoons, like when they're on the pirate ship. And it's like, why are they on a pirate ship?
Oh, the the Batman Joker team up.
Yeah.
We formed an unholy alliance.
Yeah. The fact that he calls it an unholy alliance, like, you're just dealing with Merman, but okay, fine. All right, sorry. Ken, let's do it backwards now. Ken, what's something you really, really enjoyed, or things you really, really enjoyed from this?
The voice actor homages again with Skeletor and Merman. We get Batman and Joker together. I actually liked in the first episode with Skeletor and Moss Man. We have old Skeletor and new Skeletor trading dialogue together. Like little things like that, I kind of appreciated and thought was neat.
Yeah, that was really good. All the voice work in general was amazing. I don't think I have anything to complain. The one I maybe had at least like love for was Sarah Michelle Gellar, and then afterwards, I think she was one of the few people that was remote the entire time. She had like one day of recording, and then COVID pulled her out, and it was like, yeah, and she had a lot of like dialogue heavy things. She had to pull everything out, so like she had the hardest time, I think, is what I'm really reacting to. I'm sorry I interrupted. Anything else, Ken, or you want to move it to Pete?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, some of the choices we talked about earlier, I kind of liked. I think Evelyn actually had all the best lines of the show, and I think she was my favorite part.
Yeah.
And ultimately, why doesn't Duncan listen? That's all I gotta say. Why
just showed up on a water ski like so many Owen Wilson's deep cut. Hypothetical deep cut. Pete, what are some things you really loved about the show?
I liked the obscure references. I liked that we finally saw Scareglow.
Yes.
Yeah. Scareglow.
And I liked the way they played with his origin a little bit. The old controversy, because his packaging, for those of you who don't know, his packaging said was the Skeletor's evil ghost. And
this is always garbage.
People debated forever. You know, is he the ghost of Skeletor? Like, did Skeletor die and become a ghost?
Because of the way they phrased it. With him.
Yeah, is he a ghost that's owned by Skeletor?
Yeah, and they played with that with the when Tila saw him, it's like Skeletor. He's like, not quite.
Yeah,
and we got to see Wondar, the elusive Wonder Bread promo figure.
Yes,
allegedly.
Oh, Frank doesn't know about this.
What? Where was Wondar in this?
Wondar was in Preternia. That was the other thing. That was my other thorn.
He was the one wearing the black Zodak armor.
Black Zodak armor, brunette He-Man.
Yeah, okay.
But I was upset that they changed Preternia to the afterlife.
Yeah, that was a weird choice.
Valhalla instead of just the past.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always kind of weird that Eternia had a different name in the past, and that it just fits so well with our Roman prefixes.
Yeah.
But whatever. I didn't like that they changed that. But I also liked, let's see, we had Wondar.
Hero.
Hero was good. Hero was okay. I didn't care so much about Hero.
And Grayskull.
Yeah, Grayskull. And was it Vicor? Vicor, who was the original prototype toy for He-Man.
Yes.
It was the original sketch that they drew for him.
Yeah. And he had the Viking helmet on with the horns. And so they renamed him Vicor.
And what was her name? The woman in the bird costume that couldn't speak.
Yeah.
Other Sorceress, I think is her name.
Yeah. Kind of Sorceress. Yeah. I don't remember.
She wasn't Tila Na, was she?
No.
We would have.
We're not going to go into that. We're not going to get into that.
That's a very, very slippery slope.
Any other? We got a little bit into thorns, but any other things you wanted to like that you really highlighted that you liked? That we finally got Stinkor.
Yeah,
an animated Stinkor,
and that he resisted the urge to say Snoogans. Snoochie-boochies.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like endless cuts that they had to just remove.
I actually had a weird question that went through my head watching Roboto. Apparently, so if he has Duncan's memories in him, how long ago was he built to know how many of his memories actually exist?
That didn't track well for me at all. There was a reference. That whole bit felt like a reference to something I could no longer remember. Either it was a comic I didn't read or it was an episode I just lost.
It had to be a comic because I actually just rewatched the episode that introduced Roboto on the Filmation series. And Roboto was an explorer from a race of robotic beings.
Right.
That crash landed on Eternia.
Maybe it was a 2000X one because that's his story in that one. So it tracked for me because I watched that show. And that was his backstory, and I watched it, and I was like, "Yeah, that's Roboto."
Duncan did build him in the mini comics too.
Yes,
yeah. So it's all over the place. It's interesting. Al, how about you?
They said this is taking off from the Filmation, so that means that Duncan, when he repaired this crashed
Put his brain.
Explorer, superimposed his memories over.
I don't like any of these brain patterns. You know who has a good brain?
Me.
Put that in there. See what happens.
Yep.
All right.
Sorry. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah. Al, what are some of your?
We said this already, but Scareglow, everything having to do with episode 4, I loved. Like that one was like I was kind of okay with the series, and episode 4 hit, and I was like, oh wow, all right, I love everything in this, everything having to do with it, and Scareglow is awesome for a nothing character I didn't care about before. I now think is the coolest thing ever. So that one really hit pretty hard for me. I like the new character. I think her name was Andrea, right? I thought she was actually Andra. That was it. Like I liked her a lot actually. Like she also didn't have a bad line in the entire series.
No love, no love. I don't like that line.
Can I just say, and this is going to upset all the angry people out on the internet, but I just want to point out that Andra is from the Latin root andros, meaning man.
There, now you can watch it and be okay with it, I guess.
There you go.
Sure.
I know Al apparently had a lot of love for that 4th episode, but I'm just so curious. If Orko was so decrepit, where did he get all his power from at the end when fighting Scareglow?
I don't know. Force of will, himself. Like believing in himself, power, friendship.
Actually, I will say
somebody's actual dialogue would have been awesome if Evelyn was like, "Yeah, this is positivity."
When he, when they were going towards the portal, there, Orko did say he felt magic becoming stronger.
Yeah, they did explain that the magic in Preternia and Subternia still existed. So maybe when the portal opened, he was whatever. It just seemed way too quick and out of nowhere that all of a sudden he's fighting Scareglow that was beating the crap out of him during the whole episode.
But they wrote that part before they wrote the magic dying, so you know.
So there's
it tracks.
In there.
It magic tracks.
Yeah. Magic is capricious and evil, whatever. Precocious.
Magic tracks. Yeah. Trademark non-productive.
The voice work was amazing. The animation was really good too. I think people are saying it was phenomenal, and it was, pretty. There were some moments that were just sweet. Swamp Thing as Moss Man getting torched was pretty cool.
Yeah.
A little, again, it was like this mix. It was like ham-fisted that Moss Man is effectively just Swamp Thing. Kevin Smith was like, I really like Swamp Thing. I'm going to put Swamp Thing in there. He's going to be hanging out in
Preternia?
Castle Grayskull, and then he gets sent to Preternia because reasons. But
and what the hell? We'll give him Skeletor's voice.
Yeah, and but parts of it work really well, and then parts of it are like, this is a little, I don't know why, this is a little odd. But ultimately, I really did enjoy it. Like, it was a cool moment, and seeing Moss Man have an important role, and then getting torched, and then Skeletor's big plan, the whole wrapping around it, was like, I am a Skeletor stan, to use the phrase the kids use today. I've always loved Skeletor more than almost any other character. Almost independent of what he does on the show, because he's a buffoon on the show, right?
He's totally inept.
But he's a smartass too, and he's really a funny smartass.
Sure,
Be quiet, you boobs.
Exactly, funny, great voice, awesome look,
the laugh,
awesome look, awesome toy, great laugh. It's a lot to love about the character, even like he wasn't the one I wanted to be, but like he was still like so much fun to think about. And over the years, people have tried to I guess Darth Vader him and give him backstory and make him the
Keldor,
and all that. And I'm hit or miss.
I'm looking at you, Frank Langella.
They're trying to Frank Langella him, you know what I mean. So it's very hit or miss. But something about this made him we revisited. This is really truly going back to the source material, which interestingly enough does not exist. Going back to the source material and making this demon Skeletor someone interesting, scary, terrifying, funny. And seeing him win at the end kind of put a chill up my spine, to be honest. I was looking at the injury He-Man suffered. I said, it's on his side, a little on the nose. We got stabbed through his side. But at the same time, you know, like, he can make it. He can make it. So I was a little worried, but like, I don't think you could get the tension I had for He-Man at the end of this without the way they played it in the beginning, without killing him in the beginning, thinking this show might actually make that choice to kill He-Man, and then wait till the last episode where, I'm coming back. Don't worry about it. And then dying. That second death is the kick that made me excited for part 2.
Yeah.
Which I would say is how you tell a story.
Actually, real quick, I think that's actually my favorite, my other favorite part of this series was actually taking, as a spiritual successor of the 80s show, making Skeletor competent and one of his plans actually finally working, and seeing how that would have panned out.
Yeah, there's a lot that this show kind of maybe misled people about, but a lot the hyperbole that the internet is blowing up, and I think more importantly that articles on the internet are blowing up. I think people are like selecting the weird takes and examining and blowing them up out of proportion. Like this is a hero's journey, sure, and Teela and Evelyn, I think, are the focus of it in many ways, but it is an examination of the hero that is titular for most of the Masters of the Universe.
This is definitely a He-Man show. He may not be present at all times, but he's still there spiritually. It's a story about him.
In 5 episodes, it's very hard to discuss the point of a hero, of a character, with that character being the main character, everything going. It would just be constant exposition of people talking behind He-Man's back, going like, "Isn't he interesting? Isn't his role in Eternia kind of mixed up?" Like, it would be weird if he was just there the whole time when they were talking about his legacy.
Where's He-Man?
Yeah,
I wonder what He-Man's doing right now.
the Poochie of the Masters of the Universe. I love it. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot to love about this show, and a lot of things that maybe needed to be worked on. I have one question before we wrap, though. What the hell was Motherboard? It looked very familiar. It almost looked like the Talon fighter.
Screech. There was Zoar, the bird, and then there was the purple bluebird, the opposite.
That's who it was.
Because it was the same lighting too. It was blue and purple.
Does anyone remember anything about what Screech's deal was? Zor wasn't actually Sorceress though. It was Sorceress.
Well, she would turn into the sorcerer, you know.
So
they played it differently sometimes.
Yeah.
It was weird, but I believe it was that Zoar was supposed to be the sorceress's Falcon form.
Right.
And there was at least one episode where Screech was a robot bird, some sort of mechanical bird.
So that could kind of track with the new show.
That might work.
Yeah. All right.
I hadn't even put that together.
It looked, and that's a lot of fun. That's going to be fun to rewatch this. I think I might. That's the other benefit of doing 5 episodes as opposed to doing like 12 or 24 and giving everything its own episode focus, is that you can watch it all and discuss it. It's effectively this was weirdly positioned, but this was a mini movie as an attempt to relaunch the brand, and they didn't call it that because I don't know. Probably most of those words are death knells in the marketing department, but whatever. I don't
know this would have worked as a movie, actually. I think as an actual sit there for 2 hours and watch it, no. But I think the fact that I can go back and watch 5 episodes if I want and get the entire experience again and dissect it is
it's a mini series,
much easier than if it were like a 12-part thing.
Right.
Okay.
Overall, I'm sorry. Yeah, Pete.
I was going to say if we're going to be wrapping things up, I've got one question to ask that I haven't heard any of the other reviewers online answer, I think, truthfully. I don't think they've even answered this question. But my question is, whatever you thought of Revelation so far, the first 5 episodes, part 1, are you going to watch part 2?
Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, there was a lot more
100%.
hit
Same
than
here.
miss. Yeah. Absolutely. There was a
So,
lot. Yeah.
For all the hate out there, we're still
Yeah.
gonna watch.
I want to see
Yeah,
what
and
other I want to see what other vehicles that we didn't get to talk about show up too.
Right? That we
The
didn't talk
land
about
shark was in there. The land
I'm
shark.
so glad it was in there. The
But
thing
no
with the
attack
spinning
track.
blades.
Not yet.
Yeah. Maybe you just said, is Attack Track the weird horse thing that He-Man flied?
No.
What is that one?
It was the thing that, like, with the weird tank treads that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Attack
It
Track.
was like
Yeah, I
a,
know.
it was like 2 wheels on each side, but they were it would like flip back.
There was a
But the
flyer.
toy was completely different from the cartoon.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a flyer who's
That one was in
the-
this.
The
wasn't
Wind
it?
Raider.
Stratos.
Wind Raider.
Yeah.
Oh no! Are you thinking of the one that was like a falcon?
No, that was actually what I thought the motherboard bird thing was, but then Screech or
Which now I can't think of what
Yeah,
that
no, they had
was.
what
that
the
was
hell those things? was like-
Talon
The Talon Fighter.
Fighter.
Oh.
Yes.
This is literally the most intolerable thing for a person to be watching right now, because either they know the answers to all these things, or they're shouting it to their screen, or they're like Eman, who literally stepped in for a few minutes. Is his name Scareglow? And I said yes, and she's like, huh? And she walked.
Have you not introduced her to Clamp Champ yet?
No, none of it. Oh my god, they're so bad. They're so bad and so good. I really wanted, if we had time to plan this, I wanted us all to have like Masters of the Universe names in our lower thirds.
Yes. Maybe
Let's
in
try
a
it.
couple months.
Yeah, well, all right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
our homework assignment.
Reunite for part two.
For part 2. This has been a lot of fun. It's great to talk shop, and it's also really, really great to, even if you don't love something, or just to be normal about it.
Yeah, really.
Just be normal about it. Things are good, so things are not that great. Things are okay, but we don't have to write a manifesto. Absolutely amazing to talk about this with friends again. I love the fact that Master of the Universe is getting a resurgence. I hope it sticks, and I hope there's plenty of awesome little toys I could purchase as impulse buys. Adorable.
I want those. I want them.
Adorable. So adorable. And actual Cringer. You could take off his Battle Cat's helmet, and he looks sad.
It looks like Cringer, yeah.
Which is a choice.
It's so big though. Like, I look at the size of this thing; it's huge.
Yeah, it is a choice to say he's Battle Cat. Don't
Where'd you
take off
get
his
those,
helmet,
Al?
or else you'll know.
Oh, I got these at Target. They're right at my local Target.
Yeah, we're being sponsored by Target now. So
There goes my next paycheck.
yeah. So from all of us here at Non-Productive to all of you, stay tuned for the end credits for a very, very important announcement. Hey, Skeletor. Yes, Joker? We sure had a lot of fun today, didn't we? Oh, we sure did. And you know what else is fun? No, what else? But you're the Joker. How do you not know what else is fun? I don't. I'm Cuckoo Banana Pants. Oh, right. Yes, fine. You know what else is fun? Yeah, what else is fun? Hitting subscribe on this channel. Oh, you don't seem convinced. No, seriously. I learned something today. I'm going to get close to the camera, uncomfortably close. Hey, look at me. If you want to show support to the independent creators and not just these huge media franchises, you should follow, subscribe, that whole deal. Specifically, subscribing to us on YouTube and Twitch really does do the trick. It really gets me in my funny bone. That should be my joke. I lost my voice. Also, Superman is here. Yay! Subscribe, like, and follow. We learned something today. And knowledge is power. Boom. I don't think any of this is on brand. Yeah. Subscribe today. You got it all, buddy. Yeah, we are buddies. I'm Batman.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.